the Vice President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Oshibanjo, TCON. Ladies and gentlemen, for want of time, let me stand on the protocols already established to welcome all of you to this evening of tributes. We have converged here today to pay tribute to our father, our grandfather, our brother, and our son. I'm talking about the benefactor-in-chief of the entire Oko community, the Iroko among the Irokos in Oko, our God-given pillar of strength, the glory of Oko, the Ochilos one Oko, Mukasa. We are talking about the Ide Oko, Ide Agwata, Ide Ibonine, Elegibanye, and Where's Ekwueme. Tonya Ide. We are here to announce to the whole nation that this is our son in whom we are well placed. In Alex Ekwueme, God gave us a man of prodigious intellect and a genius of diverse and tremendous capacities, a man with exceptional and unprecedented memory. Ide was a walking encyclopedia. His early education betrayed his star as a gifted young man, and he excelled in his studies to such an extent that he earned different scholarships, including being a Fulbright scholar. He conquered the academic world in a grand style by crisscrossing an intriguing cocktail of academic and professional interests. But that is not the story. As soon as he came back to Nigeria, God endowed Ide with financial wherewithal, and he began the process of a painstaking and holistic development of Oko Town, like a personal project, like a personal estate. And he protected that enterprise like a precious garden. He sponsored students to various institutions of higher learning, both in Nigeria and overseas, through the Ekwueme Education Trust Fund. Ide cited various industries in Oko, which offered gainful employment to hundreds of Oko. He was equally blessed with a telephone exchange, a rural electrification project, among others, through Ide's personal efforts. Ladies and gentlemen, Ide was a man with exceptional vision. He indeed saw tomorrow. He promoted and pioneered what is today widely known as the Federal Polytechnic Oko. It has been said before. But he planted that like a mustard seed. It was a school of arts and science, and today Oko Federal Polytechnic has at least 25,000 student population with massive physical infrastructure, bigger than most state universities in Nigeria. In the entire Anambra South Senatorial District, apart from Newi, the Federal Polytechnic Oko is probably the biggest market for banks and for microfinance institutions, telecoms, real estate, hotels, and various supporting retail outlets. So he brought to the fore the realization that a properly established tertiary institution can actually catalyze to a plethora of downstream socioeconomic benefits. Ide transformed Oko from an obscure rural community to a bubbling modern metropolis complete with all the trappings of an intermediate modern city. If you look at our faces today, you will know that we are not from a rural village anymore. If you are from Oko, just wave your hand. Tony, are you there? Are you from a rural community? That was before. So even before he passed on, Ide was still thinking big. He was still envisioning mega development projects for Oko. So sometime in 2016, at the age of 84 years, remember 84 years, he invited a road contractor to take measurements of some internal roads in Oko. After the contractors had carried out their measurements and costings, Ide confided in someone that he wanted to provide part of the cost of the construction of the roads and then invite the Anambra State government to match his contribution. Just imagine that. Unfortunately, before he could discuss this with the governor lost his mother, and he abandoned that discussion until he died. The Okonanka erosion site, which is the biggest erosion site in Africa today, according to the World Bank, would have swept the entire town away, but for Ide, who ensured that some remedial work was done there in the 1980s when he was vice president. Today, all the government officials here today know that Oko has the most active erosion site in the entire Africa, according to World Bank, not according to me. Now we ask ourselves, what are we going to do without Ide? Is the government going to allow the erosion site to sweep the entire town away? This is a question. Ide gave us an international identity through his massive philanthropic work. Even though God blessed him with enormous resources, he was never wasteful. Indeed, despite his broad-based influence and wealth, Ide had a chronic aversion for arrogance and exhibitionism. His sense of humanity was complemented by his uncommon humility. We are not aware that Ide ever locked up anyone in the police cell, nor even sued anybody as plaintiff. Never locked anybody, never intimidated anybody. But he had what it took to do that. Yet he didn't. He demonstrated to us that you can only be as great as you have made others. Therefore, he raised an army of intellectual giants such that Oko today has become a hub of diverse human resources. Ladies and gentlemen, to say that we are very proud of Ide is obviously an understatement. We celebrate him with his accomplishments within and around us. It is difficult to refer to him in the past. Mr. Vice President, if every Nigerian with half of Ide's resources could emulate him, the federal, state, and local governments in Nigeria will have nothing to worry about. What I'm saying in effect is that every society needs just one Ide, and you'll be okay. Ide has given his best to Nigeria through his honesty and dedication in public service. His impeccable integrity is second to none in Nigeria, with unreserved judicial affirmation. Not a stain, not any blemish. His prescription of the siege of political zones as an administrative imperative for national cohesion and integration founded on the principles of equity and justice remains a classic by all standards. As a community, we want to recommend Ide's prototype to every Nigerian politician and public servant to serve Nigeria selflessly and honestly, believing in one Nigeria. We also humbly appeal to Mr. President, as represented by the Vice President today, that in view of his exemplary conduct and contributions to Nigerian democracy, Chief Dr. Alex Ekwueme, GCON, should be appropriately immortalized by the federal government of Nigeria. If nothing, just to encourage public servants that patriotism and nationalism are worthy virtues. Mukasa, we say good night, and may your gentle soul rest in perfect peace.